So in reading your bio, you were an actor for a while?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I started like around since birth. I started with like filmmaking. Like that's what I really wanted to do. I was always making things all the time, just filming everything with this camera that my parents got me all the time. But then eventually I started to, because I didn't really have. I mean, I had a lot of friends that I was kind of like forced to be in the movie, but they were just not great. And so I felt like, okay, well, the only person that cares the most about this is me. So I'm just going to put myself in them. And I started to put myself in them. And then through that, I started to like get an act for like being, I really like doing comedy. Like I really like kind of being like the entertainer, like the funny guy in the room and doing impressions and just being, sort of like, I guess sort of like a Jack Black kind of thing. I just really liked kind of over the top kind of like comedic acting and just kind of had a very weird sense of humor. Like since grammar school, just had everyone kind of saw the world this way and I kind of saw the world this way, and it was just a very, I just had a very kind of like off-kilter, very bizarre sense of humor and the way I saw the world on a lot of levels. But I didn't like actually start pursuing or like actually getting somewhat serious about acting until I was like a freshman in high school, and then I decided to audition for like the musical. Like my high school did like a musical and then a play every year, and they did Hello Dolly that year, and I just auditioned for it and and got like a part as like a featured extra as like this like shoemaker part, and it was like this like just like a little gag that I had with this like woman who was like super super tall, and it was like like a fun little visual gag, and then after that, and then the next year I was like, okay, now I'm actually going to start auditioning for like both the play and the musical. I'm going to take this seriously, and that's right. I didn't audition for the play that year because I ended up playing football that year, which was like the worst mistake I've ever made in my entire life. But then the following spring I auditioned for the musical, which was like anything goes, and I didn't get it, which I was like shocked about that. Not even like in the chorus, and I was like really upset about that, and so I ended up taking acting classes, this little acting class right outside of my town, and I started like really like, okay, like let me like really like hone because that really hit me hard that I didn't get accepted to that musical. So I just like wanted to like really like take this very seriously, and then the following year, then I started to like, I guess like get the rise to fame like in high school, and started to get like bigger and bigger roles, and did like Into the Woods and played the wolf, and did like this Bertolt Brecht play, and then my senior year I did like this play called You Can't Take It With You, and that was like a Lionel Barrymore film from 1939, and ended up playing his part. I played like the grandpa, and it was like it was like the star-making performance in high school, like, and then I feel like I arrived in high school at that time, and then did the following musical, and then after that, by that point I was like known as like the actor. Like everyone knew that I was like obsessed with movies, but no one really took me seriously as like a filmmaker. Just as like an actor mainly that loved movies, and then after that I studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York for a few months, and that was like a really intense experience with the teachers, and just a very it's like you get no like gold stars no matter what you came from. You enter there and like they're just very very brutal on you, and it was a very like political, very cutthroat kind of experience. Good experience overall. I mean, there's some people that I still talk to this day that I met there, so that was like a still a wonderful experience in the long run. It really kind of like breaks you down and trains you pretty hard for like the real world of everything. And then after that, I just sort of like hit the grind, did a lot of black box theater. Some plays were, quasi successful. Some plays were not at all, but it was just like, constantly acting, like just chances to act and play different characters. And, but I mean, as far as like transitioning to, this like prestigious acting school in New York that like Robert Redford went to, and Grace Kelly and Danny DeVito, all these guys, and Paul Rudd, and it was like because in high school it's like I remember like my dad was like one of the first people that really like made that reality check to me, telling me that like I it's like I think it's really great the stuff you're doing in this school and all that, like, but at the end of the day it's like you're a big fish in a puddle, and like that's, and he didn't really use those words, but he might as well have said that. And then when I transitioned to the acting school, actually, it was, eventually, because I think everyone was like trying to make their name in that school as well. And I think that was like because you go in there, it's like, it's quite intimidating because like everyone is there for the exact same reason. Everyone takes it just as seriously as you. Everyone has, you always think everyone's better than you. Everyone has better looks than you. Everyone's going to be more successful than you. And there's like just constant jealousy and all that stuff. And a lot of depression, a lot of breakdowns and all this, because you never think that you're good enough because you're never being told that ever. And that's not their job to tell you that. And so it was, but I eventually I kind of found a loophole to sort of like to somewhat make a name for myself in that school as well. It was like a theater history presentation that we all had to do in front of the class, and I just sort of like did like an impression of the actual teacher that taught the class, and that was sort of like the time to that like what made like a lot of the students I guess know who I was in that school, or not look at me as some like weird quiet kid, but yeah, so like eventually, so it's all about just like it's all about just trying to make a name for yourself, like every spot you go to, and trying to stand out as much as possible, and trying to find a way, trying to find a loophole to get there. And so like after that, I was just like doing a lot of acting in New York City and a couple plays upstate New York a little bit, and then I think it was like around like 20. I started making, and like 21, 22, I started to like actually start making some shorts. The first short I made was like this. It's on YouTube. It's like this movie called Quiet on the Set, and it was like sort of like a Christopher Guest kind of like mockumentary type, and it looks like terrible. The production quality is terrible. We shot like but it's like it's the first half is a little rougher, and I still to this day think it's pretty funny. I think it's a funny movie, but I just got a lot of like actor friends of mine, and it was like based on this like crazy theater director that I'd worked with who was like just like a nut job, and I just like played a version of him, and so like that was like the first movie that I had made from beginning to end, and then I try to do like these. I try to do like a sketch show on this YouTube channel called like Sun Babies, which was like these like really, it was like very ordinary situations, like jacked up to extremities, and it was a very like sort of like inspired by Teletubbies, like that Sun Baby, and like it was just a very, very weird sense of humor, sort of like Eastbound and Down kind of humor, and then that was like not successful at all, and then made one more short, and then people started to respond to that one, and then I was like, oh well, maybe I should like actually maybe I should just drop acting, because I feel all these shorts that I'm making, they don't look very good, and like because I'm putting myself in them, and I can't concentrate on like the actual quality of the movie, because I'm just doing this for me as an actor, and I didn't really care that. I tried some little camera tricks and tried to like try to experiment with some things, but I was just so consumed with like the acting part of it, and they were just purely for exposure, but no one was going to really take them seriously because like they just looked terrible. That Quiet on the Set thing, I shot that on a VX1000 camera that I got for free at some like internship that I did, and that was from like 1999, that camera, and this was like 2008, 2009 that I was making this thing, and everyone else was like shooting on like the Red Epics at that time, and like I was like so bitter that like my stuff looked horrible, and like their stuff at the time looked so polished, and I just didn't really think that anyone was going to take me seriously, so I just so it was like 2011 is when I started to just decide to like pursue directing, but I didn't want to go to film school at that time, so I just hit up a friend that I went to high school with who was doing a lot of extras coordinating for like Curb Enthusiasm and all these different shows, and she was doing much better than I was at the time, and so I just reached out to her blindly and just said that, is there any opportunity for any production assistant work or anything like that, and she got me a job as a production assistant on this kind of small, a little under $1 million art film, and shot all around New York City and upstate New York as well, and like that was like 5 weeks, sort of like that was the first time I really learned like 14, 15-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days, 6 days a week. I was actually living in New Jersey at that time, so I was like taking the train every morning, and,
wow.
and desperate that I was gonna miss the last train or whatever. So like that really like trained me a lot to like, because they put me in the grip department, they put me in the camera department, like really learning how movies were made. And then after that, I just like did a lot of freelancing on a lot of other sets as well, and did a lot of production assisting throughout New York. And then I met someone on one of the sets who was interested in producing, and he had a camera, and we were big movie buffs, and I was interested in making this. I wanted to make my first like proper short film, and it was like this short. It was like this black and white, sort of like neo-noir, kind of like Blood Simple a little bit. It's about like 3 simultaneous stories that are taking place at this tavern in New Jersey, and that was like the first proper short that I made, and that's like what really kind of like taught me how to like properly make a film. I was working with like a real cinematographer and all these like kind of like a lot of these students from the Art Institute of New York City that I was meeting with, and they kind of, it was a lot of people from that school, and then I finished that, and like a week later I just like drove out to LA, and like, you know, I had no plan. I mean, like I had been talking about moving to LA for years, and like all the way back to like 2008 I was talking about moving out there, and just like every year I was constantly finding an excuse to hold me back, but then I was just like, you know, I just gotta like just bite the bullet and just do it, and yeah, and I had that short film as sort of like a calling card a little bit, and you know, that I played at like a college film festival. It sort of like snuck that in because I didn't go to that college, and I met a lot of people through that school, and some people I still work with to this day, and there were a lot of like up and coming DPs and camera people and editors and all that, and then just like over the next like 3 years or so, I was just like networking a lot, just cranking out as many, just being as creative as possible every year, and just showing my stuff to more and more people, and you know, and then eventually I made my first feature, Drifter, made that in 2015, and that was like, I just made that movie. I was just like in a very gruesome state of mind of just, I was getting very aggravated at like every short I was making just was going, they just weren't getting me to where I wanted them to be, but they were training me so much, and they were like really making me learn about like what it was I'd offer to movies, like what my aesthetic was, and I learned how to like, you know, what my point of view on the world was, and like the thematics that I liked, and the kind of tone that I liked, and then with Drifter I just made that movie out of pure like frustration and a lot of extreme anger towards just, I was very like self-hating, and very like just really just I just there was a lot of like hate in my brain all the time during that time. It was a very like upsetting state of mind that I was in. I just didn't like that feeling, so I thought like, well, I think the only way to sort of get out of this feeling is sort of like just translate it cinematically, and sort of get all that nihilism and all that sort of almost like purging myself, and sort of like almost like a form of like therapy, and making like the angriest movie I could possibly make, and almost like that movie was almost like the intent. I mean, this sounds really obnoxious to say this, but like the intention of that movie, I was like trying to hurt the audience. Like I was trying to I wanted to be like a very uncomfortable, painful experience. Like I wanted to almost be like not like a typical movie. Like I want it to be like this just sort of like thing, like this relentless thing that's constantly trying to like attack. Like that's like an assault on all senses. And like that was like the intention, and like it was very much like exercising a lot of you know, demons, and you know, some people have called it like a cold exercise in violence, and I think that I don't think that's incorrect. I mean, I think it kind of was. I mean, it was, that particular movie was very much like the point of view was just like let's just completely remove like any sort of ounce of, because it's a very, that movie was intended to be like sort of like this really messed up sort of like soulless kind of experience, where it was like I'm just reflecting the extremities of like the society that we're living in, and it was a very pessimistic. I mean, I remember like one review said it was like this weird like relevant as being this like weird zeitgeist for like the American despair and pessimism. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. You know, I mean, like that's because that person's not true. I mean, looking back at it now, it's like that was, maybe it was very, I wasn't specifically thinking about that when I was making, because I was just consumed in just making the movie itself. But like that was definitely in the back of my head, because I was just I was an extremely pessimistic person when I was making that movie. It was like not healthy at all, and so I just had to like get that out of my system, because I just wanted to get that movie out of my system so I don't have to make that kind of movie again, because I'm proud of things about that movie, but like, I mean, it also kind of like, it almost sometimes like troubles me when I watch it, because I know what my mind was when I was making it, and I don't really like that person that was doing that, because that just wasn't a very like healthy state of mind, and it's not really like, I just don't want to make a film that nihilistic again, you know, like that's, but I think that was just the time to do that, you know. If I was going to do it, I just wanted to make a very anxious movie, like just something that was just like, you know, like pay attention to me, like that was like the intention of just like just trying to be like the loudest, most brashest, you know, just most like aggressive movie that I could possibly make at that time, and so that was always the intention. But yeah.